Punishment for Cowardice. During World War I, cowardice and desertion were serious offences in the military, and soldiers who were found guilty of such acts faced harsh punishments. Punishments for cowardice and desertion in World War I varied among the different countries involved in the conflict, but some common forms of punishment included court-martial. Soldiers accused of cowardice or desertion were often subjected to a military court-martial where they were tried for their offences. A court-martial is a military tribunal that determines the guilt or innocence of a soldier and imposes a punishment if the soldier is found guilty. Execution. In some cases, soldiers convicted of cowardice or desertion were sentenced to death by firing squad. Military authorities viewed cowardice and desertion as serious offences that could undermine morale and discipline within the ranks, and executions were carried out to deter others from similar actions. Imprisonment. Soldiers found guilty of cowardice or desertion were often sentenced to imprisonment, where they had served their time in military prisons or detention camps. The length of the imprisonment varied depending on the severity of the offence and the military regulations in place. Field punishment. Soldiers who are deemed to have committed minor acts could be subjected to field punishment. This form of punishment involved physical labour, such as digging trenches or other manual tasks, under harsh conditions as disciplinary measure. Stripping of rank and privileges. Soldiers found guilty of cowardice or desertion would also face the loss of their military rank, pay and privileges. This punishment served as a form of public humiliation and a deterrent to others who might consider similar actions. It's important to note that the issue of cowardice and desertion in World War I is complex, and some soldiers may have been unfairly accused or punished for reasons beyond their control. The harsh punishments for cowardice and desertion reflect the strict military discipline and expectations placed on soldiers during the war. Conscientious objectors. Conscientious objectors in World War I were individuals who opposed war and refused to participate in military service on moral, religious or ethical grounds. These individuals believed that taking part in war and violence conflicted with their deeply held beliefs and principles. Conscientious objectors in World War I had various reasons for their opposition to military service. Some objected to war based on religious beliefs, such as pacifism or teachings of their faith. Others opposed war on ethical or humanitarian grounds, believing in non-violence and the sanctity of human life. They faced challenges and discrimination for their beliefs during World War I. In many countries, including the United States and United Kingdom and other belligerent nations, conscientious objectors were often viewed with suspicion and subjected to harsh treatment, including imprisonment, forced labour and social ostracism. Some countries allow conscientious objectors to perform alternative forms of service as a way to accommodate their beliefs while still contributing to the war effort. Alternative service could include non-combat roles such as medical aid, ambulance driving or other civilian duties that did not involve direct participation in warfare. During World War I, conscientious objectors organised themselves into groups and movements to advocate for their rights and support for one another. These organisations provided legal assistance, moral support and resources for conscientious objectors facing persecution for their beliefs. The actions of conscientious objectors in World War I helped raise awareness about issues of conscience, freedom of belief and the moral implications of war. Their courage in standing up for their convictions inspired future generations of individuals who opposed violence and sought peaceful solutions to conflicts. White feather shaming. During the World War I, the practice of white feather shaming was a controversial and divisive tactic used to publicly shame men who were not in uniform and accuse them of cowardice or lack of patriotism. The white feather, traditionally a symbol of cowardice, was given to men who were perceived on shirking their duty to enlist in the military. The white feather as a symbol of cowardice dates back to the 18th century, but it gained prominence during World War I as a way to pressure men to enlist in the armed forces. Women's suffrage activist and writer Emmeline Pankhurst and her organisation, the Women's Social and Political Union, popularised the practice of distributing white feathers to men who were not in uniform. Women, often accompanied by male supporters, would approach men on the streets or in public places and present them with a white feather as a sign of their perceived cowardice. The intention was to shame these men into enlisting and to pressure them to join the war effort. The practice of white feather shaming has had a significant impact on individuals who received the feathers. Many men felt humiliated and ostracised by the public shaming tactics, even if they had legitimate reasons for not enlisting, such as medical conditions, family responsibilities, or conscientious objection. White feather shaming was criticised for its coercive and judgmental nature, as it failed to consider the personal circumstances and reasons why some men were not in uniform. The practice was seen as unfair and damaging to individuals who may have had valid reasons for not enlisting. The legacy of white feather shaming in World War I serves as a reminder of the social pressures and expectations placed on individuals during times of war. It also highlights the complexities of patriotism, duty and individual choice in the face of conflict.